Good evening, good evening, good evening. And what is tonight? Tonight is Monday night, and what do we do on Monday night is Urban Sentinel Live. And I have with me tonight a former guest. I say she's a former guest now. She's part of this show here now, Miss Raven Thissel. What's up, Raven? How
It's
you
so
doing?
good to be back. Good to see you. How
It
was
was,
your Thanksgiving?
it was fine. It was fine. It was good, enjoyable. I ate too much. I ate too much. Instead of getting one plate when I went up, we had so much food. I took two plates. Okay, I had to.
Look,
I'm gonna get everything at one time, sit down, and kill myself, and that's what I did.
that's a part of
But
the plan, though. We build those calories into the year. We expect
yeah,
that.
yeah, I said, Lord, have mercy. I hadn't eaten like that in a long time. Because generally I'm just a one serving person now. But for some reason Thursday I just said I got to get down.
Look, I
I
love
gotta get
food,
down.
so I was looking forward to overeating, and I did.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Tonight, again, like I said, we have Raven Thissel, and Raven has been on the show before. And Raven is a very interesting person, and what she does is really helps the community. And the kind of help she gives us is help we need and help that we tend to stay away from. We don't want to talk about it because we consider it taboo. And it's all about your mental health, okay? Not mental illness, your mental health. And so we wanted Raven to come back on tonight and we're going to talk about holidays, ups and downs, because between Thanksgiving and Christmas, a lot of people go through depression because of the time of year, not having loved ones who had been there probably last year. And coming out of the pandemic, that's something that's very serious because a lot of people have passed away. And so I know a lot of people are going to be affected during this holiday season with depression because of the loss of a loved one. So, Ray, before we get started, tell the audience something about what you do.
Sure. So, one of the things that I do, I was trained in 2016 as a holistic health coach. And during that time, I learned a lot about a myriad of ways to approach mental health and mental hygiene, in addition to all sorts of ways to take good care of the body and love yourself holistically. And with that in mind, I've created products to support the Black community in their mental hygiene or quest for mental hygiene, getting started with meditation. And I work actively to rid the Black community of the harmful stigma against seeking help for mental illness and practicing things that are going to keep you in good mental health from a preventative standpoint.
Good, good, good. So, we want to get this program started tonight, this show started with the discussion. And Raven, it's all on you tonight. I told you, mess with me again, it's going to be all on you. And I want you to just take us on a journey tonight as we talk about holidays, ups and downs.
Sure. So I guess I'll start by apologizing to you and your audience because I misspoke in our last show. I said that suicide rates increase at this time of year. Well, since our last conversation, I've done a lot of research on seasonal depression, on what the real statistics are of what happens to people around this time of year. And I discovered that actually November, December, and January have some of the lowest statistical suicide rates, which is contrary to what a lot of local news outlets say. Even though they're well meaning, there is this myth that suicide rates increase this time of year. And what I discovered was it's actually not true. The highest occurrences of those types of incidences are in June, July, and August. But what we do see increase at this time of year is a different type of depression. It's a different. There are two different categories of what we see increasing this time of year. There is the holiday blues, right, which is what we're going to get into. But there's also something called seasonal affective disorder, or some people call it SAD, SAD. And that is when you have your holiday depression, your seasonal depression. Some symptoms of it are anxiety, apathy. You may have a general sense of discontentment. You may be excessively lonely, have a loss of interest in things that you normally really enjoy, mood swings. You might find yourself sleeping more or sleeping less. Appetite changes. Your appetite can increase to where you're overeating outside of Thanksgiving, like us. And you
Mhm.
might even find yourself having no appetite and no interest in things that you normally do. Irritability is also associated here, as well as an increased social isolation. Now, seasonal affective disorder is different from the holiday blues because it is a clinical incident that happens to us because of the reduction in sunlight. We have less daylight hours. We get less exposure to the sun, less vitamin D, decreased serotonin, and therefore we have a clinical reduction in those happy hormones. So one thing that we can do to curb that is to make sure we get outside. Make sure we spend some time outside in the sun, even though it's cold. Maybe put your jacket on and go for a walk, but let the sun hit your skin for some time in the day and make that a habit. That's one thing that I do. I know that I have a tendency toward seasonal affective disorder this time of year. So these are things that I do from a preventative standpoint, and I have seen an improvement since I've started doing these things. So getting out in the daylight hours, getting some sun. I'm mindful about what I'm eating. There are some foods that you can eat that can contribute to the reduction in serotonin and other happy hormones and increase your cortisol levels, like having a lot of sodium, having a lot of sugar. Those things are going to encourage your body and your brain toward seasonal affective disorder. So, being mindful about what you eat, trying to eat healthy, being thoughtful to make sure that you do eat on a regular schedule, maybe even taking the extra step of adding a calorie counter to your life, not so you can beat yourself up, but so you can make sure you're getting enough of the right things. There's one app called Lose It that I recommend. There is a free version of it, there's a paid version of it, but either way, it's going to help you make sure you're getting enough protein. It's going to help you track your carbs and your overall nutrient intake. In addition to that, some people recommend exercise. Exercise can be more of a preventative treatment. There are not a lot of studies that show that it corrects or reverses the effects once that seasonal affective disorder sets in. So, not saying that you shouldn't work out if you're already starting to feel these symptoms, but it's great for preventative care if you start on it prior to the winter months. And then also, socialization is going to be your absolute best tool. It's your best tool against this. One of the issues with depression, anxiety, is that we get into our heads. We get into our heads, we tell ourselves these stories about people not caring about us if they're not around. But if we are actively exposing ourselves to people on a regular basis, having phone calls, making sure that our social life goes beyond social media, then we can curb a lot of those feelings of hopelessness, etc. Seasonal affective disorder is mostly self-diagnosable, but you can definitely go and see a doctor. I would recommend you do see a doctor if you are feeling any of those symptoms, and or a therapist. Some people do take medication, um, especially if you're somebody who has a prolonged depression already. You've had depressive episodes already, or you've experienced prolonged trauma like narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse or mental abuse of any kind in your relationships. Long prolonged exposure to that sort of abuse does can cause, I won't say does because there are some instances where it doesn't, but it can cause neurological damage. And sometimes the damage that that type of abuse does to your brain makes it very difficult for your brain to actually correct itself when you're going through these types of emotions, and these types of hormones are not able to circulate well. So in those instances, medication can really be helpful. And that's something that you may want to discuss with your doctor, especially if these symptoms are causing you to feel hopelessness to the degree that you are thinking of self-harm. Um, and then I would even Google seasonal affective disorder and just look at the symptoms and measure yourself to see if you find yourself having many of those symptoms, and then to reach out. Um, the other side that I'll talk about is the holiday blues. So I create a distinction there, but some websites and some articles that you may find might call it the same thing. They may say holiday blues is interchangeable with seasonal affective disorder. I am calling the sadness of missing loved ones, or sadness that you associate with the holidays. I'm going to call that holiday blues for the sake of our discussion. Um, and so, in those instances, people who are suffering in this way are legitimately experiencing either grief, or they are associating or have associated this time of year with past traumas. And so, taking that into consideration, the holiday blues really is a signal for those of us who are struggling in that way that we have some healing to do, emotional healing and mental healing. Being that this is a time of year where there's so much social emphasis on spending time with loved ones, those of us who have smaller circles or who are isolated naturally by our jobs, live far away from our families, can be hit extra hard emotionally. Even those of us who don't feel bad about being alone most of the time, those of us who are introverts naturally and enjoy the time alone, can find themselves struck with loneliness and feelings of hopelessness this time of year because of the marketing of how this time of year is supposed to look, quote unquote. So for those people, I would recommend that you also take socialization very seriously. Finding ways, being vulnerable, and asking people to spend time with you, making plans on your calendar. And then when the day comes to spend that time, not canceling, but actually showing up, going to spend the time. Um, Sometimes it's just like going to school when we're kids. Um, we don't want to get out of bed. It's cold. We don't want to go and brush our teeth. We don't want to get up and get moving. But when we actually get to school, it's fine. We're happy to be there sometimes. So let's treat our social appointments the same way. When you make plans with somebody this time of year, try to keep your plans, even if you don't feel like it, because you never know, the person that you're going to meet with may really need that time with you. And the last thing you want to be saying later is, I had no idea that they were that sad. I had no idea that they needed someone. So around this time of year, make it a point to really show up for the people in your life. Um, Try to pay attention to others if you have the mental and emotional space to do that. But the most important thing you can do is really pay attention to yourself. Ask yourself some tough questions. If you find yourself in the space feeling sad and missing someone, now may be the time to ask, how can I start the healing process? If you're grieving the loss of someone, I'm grieving the loss of someone. This is my first year going through the holidays without my grandmother. She was very close to me, and she passed away on her birthday last year on December 10th. So not having Thanksgiving with her this year was very difficult. And then not having Christmas, not having her birthday, that's hard for me. So I'm speaking from a place of experience when I say it can be that we are grieving, legitimately grieving, and there's no expiration on when that grief should end. Sometimes it's for years, and sometimes it's forever, and the grieving looks different over time.
I can agree with that. My father passed away 29 years ago. Well, it'll be 29 years in December, and towards the end of December, I think December 28th. And I still find myself in the grieving process. Even though I enjoy Christmas, I enjoy the holidays, I enjoy putting up Christmas decorations, I just enjoy, having a good time. I still find myself going through the grieving process in every year. And I find myself, from the first of November to probably the first of the year being down being down and everything. But, I pushed my way through it and everything, I pushed my way through it. But I can't, I'm going to be honest with my audience, the first year after my father passed, I had to go through grief counseling. I just had to. I had to talk to someone about it because I was really, really, really dragging. And when I say I was dragging, my butt was on the ground. Okay. So I knew I had to do something to pick myself back up, And so I made it through. But, every November 1st hits, I feel it coming. And I just roll with the punches until the first of the year. Then I gradually get out of it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent about that. Sometimes it's just not hard to talk about. I mean, it's not easy to talk about. And it's just hard. There's no getting around it. And grief strikes us at random sometimes. But with the holiday season, if we expect it and we know that it's coming, then maybe we can put some things in place. And that's good for me to know what you just shared. With this being my first year going through losing someone and not having someone there, I didn't know what to expect for this season. I didn't know that on Thanksgiving Day I would be swirling with memories and feeling heavy. So to hear you say that around November 1st that these feelings are going to come up, that tells me you've been doing this for some years and that this is a thing that happens and comes up for you. So maybe for me next year, what I'll do is put some things in place for myself. I'll go ahead and let my loved ones know I might need your support. There might be times where I call you, and if you miss my call, I understand. Don't worry. I've told 7 other people that I might call them. But I also probably will start working out more regularly leading up to that time, making sure that I have plans for the holidays. That's a part of what I need, is to be around people who love me or people who I really enjoy. And then checking in on other family members. My grandmother was everybody's, she loved us all and she meant a lot to all of us. So another thing that has been a huge relief for me has been to share in that grief with other loved ones. So if you have other people who are experiencing something similar to you, being a shoulder to one another can be something that helps you push through the holiday season and thrive even in it. It can be a really healing thing for you to do. Did I graze over anything that I should go back over?
No. Can you hear me?
I can. But
okay, because I'm looking at my picture and I'm stuck in a pose on my picture and everything. No, you've covered everything. I appreciate it, because again, as one of the things that we need to work on is removing the stigma out of the Black community when it comes to mental health, taking care of your mental health. I mean, taking care of your mental health is just like taking care of your health, your physical health, exercising and stuff, So you have to take care of your physical health. And I think over the years I've learned that, because, and be honest, after I lost my father, I knew something was wrong with me, as far as, how I was feeling and everything, and I wasn't lashing out at the world or anything like that. I was just dragging. I just hated to deal with each day. I hated to go to work. I hated to do certain things, and it was affecting the people around me. It was affecting myself. It was affecting relationships. So I knew, eventually, I knew it when it was time to do what I had to do. I had to do it, and everything, I just did it. I just did it, even though it requires some medication, which I really didn't care for. I went ahead and took it because I knew it would help me improve, So, like I said, I'm a living witness to the fact that some people can take a loss and deal with it and going by with life, not lose a beat. For me, I lost some beats, and like I said, I'm not ashamed of it, that I have a downtime, each year towards the end of the year. That's just, I just go through it, and I think we've got to start feeling that way as people, that having, feeling depressed, having your psyche affected, there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, you covered everything, you cover everything.
No, and absolutely. I completely agree that the stigma has to go. I think it makes some people feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that discomfort comes from sometimes the fact that we ourselves have not been taking care of our own mental health. If you feel uncomfortable with someone else mentioning their struggle with this, it may be because you haven't given yourself permission to do that. And then also, sometimes people just don't know what to say, even if they've gone through it themselves. So maybe now we could give some thoughts on what to say when
Mm-hmm.
someone does open up to you about what they're struggling with their mental health. If someone shares with you that they are experiencing some of these symptoms, or if they share with you that they're on medication and they're doing better, or anything regarding their mental health. It's a thing where, because we don't have a history of being open about this topic, we do have to be careful with what we say. We don't want to be the person who triggers someone into thinking that they're broken, or that something's wrong with them, or that they should be ashamed, even accidentally. So my first recommendation with what to say when somebody, or if someone decides to open up to you about this, the first thing is to say nothing and make sure that you listen thoroughly to the person. Sometimes just having someone hear us and make us feel seen is enough to trigger some healing. So make sure that you quietly listen. Try to be as non-judgmental as you can. Try not to make it about you. If someone shares that they've been having suicidal thoughts, for example, your first reaction may be to become afraid and to rebuke them, to rebuke the thought, to rebuke the idea. And I think that's a natural reaction for someone that you care about, for you to feel that way. It might be more effective, though, to make sure that that person feels they can continue opening up about this topic and not clam up. It might be more effective to ask them questions like, how long have you been feeling this way? What do you think is making you feel this way? Helping them go on this exploration journey. And if you're not comfortable doing that, then suggest that they get help. Suggest that they go. There are apps that they can download for therapy. There's an app called BetterHelp. I have used BetterHelp throughout the pandemic for therapy. After I lost my grandmother, I got BetterHelp. I found a wonderful therapist there. You can select that you would like a Black therapist. You can select that you would like a male or female therapist. You can select that you'd like someone who's worked with non-binary or people within the LGBTQIA community. And so you can get specific, and let's say that you don't hit it off with your therapist right away. You can select to find another one. BetterHelp is not the only app. There's also, give me a sec, it's going to come to me. But there are other apps that you can download, and you can get therapy in the comfort of your home. You can have a virtual relationship with a therapist.
That's good, because we can't. I think technology has changed a lot, because we can't always make it into an office to see someone. It's good to be able to do that, because you don't have to miss work, you don't have to miss any time. You just keep it. You just keep it going. You just keep it going. So, like I said,
about it.
to me, it has been very important. And like I said, I think we have to do more of this in our communities. And we as a people, we just got to stop looking at people crazy, excuse the pun, but start looking at people crazy when they are feeling, that, they're feeling depressed and everything, and I think one of the things that I said a while back is too, uh, I know that we depend on the church to do a lot. Okay, I know that we do, but a lot of these pastors aren't trained in this area, and the first thing they're gonna do is tell you go home, read your Bible, and pray about it. A lot of times you cannot go home, read the Bible, and pray about it, and expect the situation to change. Okay, you can't do that. So I hope people won't take me wrong when I say this, but sometimes you do have to seek out professional help. You do have to seek out professional help.
That's a very damaging part of the stigma right there. People who say, just pray about it, you'll be all right, God got you. When you have severe mental or even, I won't even just say severe, when you need help cultivating healthy mental and emotional hygiene habits. So I actually, when I first went to therapy for the first time, I was going to a church. I was a very faithful member there. I was a teacher there. And what I heard from the pulpit was, you don't need to go to a secular therapist. You need to only get therapy and counseling from church. The only place that you should be getting this type of help from. And so with that, hey, you're back.
Yeah, I had to. Shoot.
So I'll keep going. So
Yeah,
it's
keep
not
going.
it's
Keep
not that
going.
therapy is meant to replace your spiritual life at all. And it doesn't mean that you don't have faith in whatever it is that you are wanting to keep your faith in. These are two aspects of your life that are intended to work together, not against each other. And so your mental health is health. It should be treated just like every other aspect of your health. If you are unwell, even if it's a dull pain that you're experiencing, let's say that you have times where you become anxious, where you maybe become short of breath in certain situations, or before you go to work in the morning, you notice your hands are shaking sometimes, or before you have a big meeting, or things like that. Well, you might think, well, that's normal. Everybody goes through that, or I'll be okay. I know that was a big one. I'll be okay. I used to say that all the time. But if it was a physical ailment, if you were experiencing a pain in your foot every time you walked up some stairs, you wouldn't accept someone telling you to just pray about it. You wouldn't expect someone telling you you'll be all right. And so we have to adjust to taking our mental wellness just as seriously as we would take our physical wellness. We don't want to keep walking on that foot until it becomes a bigger problem. We don't want to let it snowball, and then maybe you have to have crutches. Maybe you have to have a cast when it was something that you could have solved pretty easily if you caught it early. Mental health has to be treated the same way. It has to be approached the same way, which is why I like to use the term mental hygiene. I think that sometimes mental health can feel overwhelming and daunting for people. It feels so inclusive. It's kind of like, where do I even start? And then it can feel so big that it's like, well, I just have this going on. It's nothing so big that I need a therapist. People kind of treat it like therapy is only for huge things that happen in your life, and it's not for the small things, so to speak. But when we talk about mental hygiene, I think it paints a very different picture. When we think about our hygiene and what we do to not be funky and crusty, there's a series of things that we do on a regular basis for our physical upkeep. Nobody wants to be around you if you smell bad, right? The same way, if you're mentally smelly, you can be mentally and emotionally not in good hygiene.
Right.
So there are practices that you can take throughout the day that need to be non-negotiables, the same way that brushing your teeth is non-negotiable. Maybe meditation becomes a non-negotiable thing that you do as well. Maybe prayer. Maybe prayer is a part of that. Maybe talking to your therapist every week or every 2 weeks is a part of that. Whether you feel like something is wrong or not, these are things you do that are part of your hygiene. So they are preventative.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Now tonight, to my listening audience, I had to go grab on my iPad to get on my iPad. I tell you, technology, and technical difficulties you have at times. But this has been a great conversation tonight, Raven. Talking about the holidays, ups and downs, and I hope and I pray that this has helped someone tonight. That this conversation has helped someone. Okay, because we need to have a full checkup. Okay, we need it to live. We need a full body checkup, and that includes our mental health also, as I keep saying. And for our listen, for our audience tonight, Raven is going to be with us, hopefully at least once a month to discuss issues in with us around mental health. And Raven, please give the audience your contact information if they want to get in contact with you, and very quickly tell them about your resources that you have.
Sure. So if you would like to learn how to meditate, I've created a system that teaches Black men meditation. It's called King Vibes. It teaches you various forms of healing. It consists of an ebook and 10 audio guides that I created after interviewing dozens of Black men and doing lots of research on meditation. You can get that at crownedcalm.com. That's CROWNEDCALM.com. The women's system, Queen Vibes, is under development right now, but you can pre-order it now at crownedcalm.com. And there are also lots of merchandise there that are intended to get conversations about mental health started so that you can actively be a part of breaking down the stigma in the Black community. If you would like to reach me directly, you can do so by emailing me at raven@thistleconsulting.com.
Okay, that's some great information. Now tomorrow night, I'm part of another show on Tuesday nights on Real World News TV, and we get into the political scene. So I'm going to ask everyone if you want to talk politics tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about two trials and an unjust justice system. We're going to look at the Ahmaud Arbery case, and we're going to look at the case of the little boy up in Wisconsin. I won't call his name, but we're going to look at it and talk about how we as Blacks are still struggling in the justice system, which is supposed to be a just justice system, and it's not. So we're going to do that tomorrow night. So again, I want to thank Miss Raven Thissel for being with us tonight, for enlightening us and helping us. And I really hope and pray that this conversation has helped someone tonight. It has helped me. And like I said, I'm gonna get through these holidays, okay? And I know why I can't make it, but I'm going to make it, and I always make it. It's a struggle, but I do. And that's how I want all of us to approach our mental health, knowing that we can get help from a company that Ms. Thissel has, and knowing we can get better. So I want us to keep on pushing, okay? Keep on pushing. And for Miss DeBoss, you go out and have a good time over the holidays and get with some of your friends and stop turning down all those invitations, okay? So
That's my mom.
yeah, I know. I know. She left another comment that made me realize that was your mother and everything. So tell your mother, and well, I'm telling her because she's listening, take those invitations and enjoy the holidays. I know it's tough, but go out and enjoy the holidays anyway. So again, this has been the Urban Center Live Show. We've had Raven Thissel tonight, and she's going to be with us at least once a month to discuss mental health issues in our community. So until next Monday night, I want to say good night to Miss Raven Thissel, and I want to say good night to our audience, and thanks for tuning in to Urban Sentinel Live. Take care. Have a good week. Be blessed. Peace.
Good night.
Good night.